Welcome back to the Lee Davis Show. So proud to bring in our first guest of the afternoon, a man we visited with before, a man we'll visit with hopefully many times between now and November 2nd, and hopefully a man that we'll be calling Senator Bussman after November the 2nd. PaulBussman, he is a very prominent dentist and businessman in the Cullman area. He is a candidate for the Alabama State Senate District 4, where he is opposing incumbent Senator Zeb Little, who is the Senate Majority Leader. In other words, he's running against the Harry Reid of Alabama. I guess that's a good way to put it, and probably a way to put it that will make people want to support you even more, Paul. Let me before we start, I want to read a quote from your opponent that he made almost exactly 4 years ago. Your opponent, Zeb Little. I'm going to let you speak too, but I'm going to speak for your opponent first. He made this statement 4 years ago. He said, quote, "All over the nation, politics has gotten nasty. I ran 2 races before this, one against the late Senator Don Hale and another against former Governor Guy Hunt. And I never said an unkind word about either of them. I have a thick skin when it comes to this sort of thing. You have to if you're going to be in politics. But I have a 9-year-old son who can read, and he sees me portrayed in a negative light, and I feel bad for him. I do wish the candidates could debate the issues and the record without distorting the facts." That was Senator Little 4 years ago. And if Senator Little was sincere when he said this 4 years ago, I want to know, why is he saying extremely nasty and extremely personal things about PaulBussman?
I can't answer that question, Lee. I don't really know. The only thing I can think of is he's scared, he's desperate, and when people get put under pressure in those circumstances, you find out what kind of character they have, and his character is coming through, and it's not very good. And the only way he can catch up in the polls is to try to destroy my reputation, and it's just it's a common thing now in politics, and it's sad that people think they've got to go there to get their point across.
Paul, let me ask you this. We'll talk about that later, but let's talk about you a little bit. As I mentioned, you're a very respected man in the Cullman community. You're a dentist in the Cullman community. You've looked at a lot of 3-year molars, I'm sure, in your life up in Cullman. You've got a good life. Why in the world does PaulBussman want to be in the Alabama State Senate?
Well, Lee, the first thing that I've seen is the people that are representing us in Montgomery do not represent the people that live in my district. We are a very conservative district. We are a very Christian district. We have very strong morals and values, and that is not what's down in Montgomery right now. And the more I looked at it, I felt like we had to do something to change that leadership. And then after a good bit of prayer, I realized that I was the one that needed to do it, and I felt very strong that I could do it. And I feel very strong that we can change Montgomery if we can change the leadership down there.
Paul, maybe somebody's listening to this in either Cullman or Winston County, and they're saying, Paul sounds like a good guy, and yeah, we need some change in Montgomery, but Zeb's been up there a long time, and he's probably got connections. Maybe he could bring home some things for Cullman or Winston County. What do you say to somebody that might say, well, Zeb's well connected up there, and he might be able to bring in some things?
The thing about well connected is if he's bringing home things to the district, is he spreading that out fairly? And we're not seeing that in our district. We're seeing parts of the district that are just getting totally neglected. We've got a part of the road in Winston County, County Road 41, that's a county road. In Walker County, it's a state road. In Lawrence County, it's a state road, and for some reason in Winston County, it's a county road. There's not a fair spread of the wealth, should we say. And right now there is no wealth in the state of Alabama. We have got to look at how to cut budgets, and we've got to figure out how to make it work, and that's going to be a very ugly thing to do.
I was going to say, Paul, it's going to be whoever gets elected to any state office come January is going to have some very tough decisions to make because of the economy. We know revenue is down, and there is going to be some cuts that have to be made, and there are going to be some people screaming. What is this process going to be like? If you're in the state senate, what will you be looking at when you're looking for places to cut?
I'll be looking at fairness, and I'll be looking at priorities. And there are priorities in the state that we have to take care of. We have to take care of education. We have to take care of our senior citizens. And the main thing we've got to do is we've got to create jobs. The only way we're going to fix this situation that we're in right now is to get small businesses cranked up, get them generating new jobs, get people employed. People will start spending money. But we've got to help the small business. And unfortunately, Mr. Little has only helped small business 43% of the time. And that's not from me. That's from the National Federation of Independents independent business here in the state of Alabama. 57% of the time he's voting against small business, and that's where the economy is going to grow from.
Now, you say help small business, Paul. Everybody says that right now. What ideas do you have that you would push in the legislature to try to help small business?
Well, there's a lot of things that right now, when somebody wants to expand, if they're going to buy some equipment, there are use taxes that they have to pay. It's not much, but it's enough sometimes for a small business to help them. I, for one, have a business that's got about 25 employees. All those employees are part-time and cannot receive unemployment. If I fire them, if they leave, if they quit, they don't qualify. But I'm still paying anywhere from $750 to $1,000 a month for unemployment. And so that's crazy. That's $12,000 a year, and to a small business, that's huge money.
Sure.
That may keep them afloat. That may keep them out of bankruptcy. That may keep them in business. And those are the kind of things we've got to look at. We've got to look at encouraging them to develop and encourage them to expand. And if we can do that, then they're going to do it. We've got to give them tax breaks. We've got to get small business the same opportunities we're giving the Mercedes-Benz and the people like that come in. Those are the people that are going to generate the jobs and the income for the state of Alabama.
Paul, what about, obviously we know AEA is a very strong lobby. Dr. Hubbard is going to take care of his first and foremost. Are we ever going to get a Senate and a House that will stand up to Paul Hubbard and say, hey, you're going to have to undergo the same scrutiny every other department does?
Oh, I think you're going to have to do that. And Paul Hubbard is an organization executive. He's never made a vote in the state Senate or the House. We've got to get people in there that are willing to make the tough stands, to make the decisions that have to be made to make this state work and to make education work. And that may be sometimes you're voting for AEA, and that may be sometimes you're voting against AEA. You've got to be fair. You've got to be strong when it comes to those issues, and that's what I intend to do.
Paul, we all know about Obamacare. We've talked about that extensively on this program this very week. There are many concerns, but one concern I have is what's going to happen with Medicaid because of the federal mandates. Medicaid, not only in Alabama, but throughout the country, is going to have to take on more and more individuals when Medicaid right now in Alabama is having big problems. What are the answers for Obamacare? What can be done about Medicaid?
Medicaid is going to be a nightmare. I mean, we're looking at $192 million of loss in that just that one account in this coming fiscal budget. We've got to tell the federal government to get back in their box. They've passed something here, and they're shoving it down the states' throats and saying you have to do these things. And the states don't have to do that. The Constitution does not allow them to tell us to do that. Unfortunately, we had a chance in this last legislative session to stop that and to say that we're not going to abide by, or we're not going to participate in Obamacare, and they failed to do that. It failed to come out of the committee, and that's a leadership issue. We've got to have people in the Senate that have the guts and have the leadership ability to get stuff like that out, and to tell the federal government to get back in their constitutional box and let the states make decisions that they need to make. Same way with immigration. I mean, it's the same issue with immigration.
What about immigration, Paul? What's the answer with immigration? Would you favor something like the Arizona law for Alabama?
I think that's a good law. I mean, all they're saying is we're going to enforce the law. And if that's the case, then let's enforce the law. If we don't enforce that law, what effect does it have if somebody drives 90 miles an hour down the interstate? Are we going to enforce that law or not? We can't pick and choose. If the law is on the books, the law should be enforced. And the one thing I see in illegal immigration right now is in the United States, it's dropped 65%. In the state of Alabama, it's gone up 30%. That means that the state of Alabama is a safe haven for illegal immigrants. That's the only way you can look at that. And we've got to clean that up. We've got to stop that illegal immigration problem. And if it requires passing a law like Arizona, I'm for that.
Paul, I talk to employees all the time who are really in a quandrum. They want to do the right thing, but if somebody shows up with what appears to be the right kind of identification for a job, they're afraid if they don't hire Mr. Gonzalez or Mr. Alvarez or Mr. whoever, he's going to run down the street and get a lawyer to sue. What can we do? Some kind of E-Verify or whatever where employers will know that the credentials that they're looking at of a person are legitimate?
I think the E-Verify system is a great system. I think right now if we use the E-Verify system and an employer gets a confirmation from the E-Verify system that they've done their part as best they can do and that person is declared legal, then that employer should be off the hook. The problem is that we don't have that in place now, and they just do what they want to, whether they want to check papers or not, whether they think the papers are right or not. But if they would go through the E-Verify system and get some kind of confirmation from the federal government saying we think this guy's legal or this lady is legal, then they're off the hook. Then they can put them into employment. They can hold taxes. They can and they can, they can be a normal citizen, and that's what they should be if they've got legal papers.
We will continue with Paul Bussman, a candidate for the Alabama State Senate, District 4. If you got a question or a comment, give us a call.
Hey, it's Laura Ingram. Come on, News Talk isn't just for the boys anymore. Listen to me every day from 8 until 11 on 101.1 The Source. I dare you not to get addicted. When you're listening to The Laura Ingram Show, you're saying no to stupid radio. Politics, the culture, and the media that cover them all, we'll dissect them for you, toss them in the Cuisinart push blend. Keep feeding that healthy radio addiction with The Laura Ingram Show. Weekdays from 8 until 11 live on 101.1 The Source.
This is boot camp. This is the real thing now. You've never done anything so hard in your life. You don't understand how you can finish. It takes inner strength and desire to become a Marine. When I finished, I was like, I did it. The moment I will never forget is when this drill instructor that I admire so much comes up to me and said, "Good morning, Marine."
PFC Summer Volkman became a Marine. Can you? Visit Marines.com or call 1-800-MARINES.
Why are you so distant?
Did you have to shoot anyone?
You gonna get a job now or what?
No one knows what it's like to come back from Iraq or Afghanistan unless they were there. Join other veterans at communityofveterans.org, brought to you by Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America and the Ad Council.
I've had trouble with Angel trying to finish high school. It would be frustrating because during the day I would get a phone call saying he wasn't in class. He dropped off for a whole month. I really didn't have many people to look to but myself. Now I think that it's gotten a lot better. Now I at least have hope that he'll finish high school. He's still my son, I can't give up.
Give your teen the boost they need to graduate. Call 1-877-4A-KID or join us at boostup.org for tips and advice. Brought to you by the U.S. Army and the Ad Council.
The National Association of School Nurses urges parents to vaccinate preteens and teens against meningococcal meningitis, a rare but serious disease. Go to voicesofmeningitis.org.
Where issues happen. 101.1 The Source.
Welcome back to the Lee Davis Show as we continue with Paul Bussman. He is, Dr. Paul Bussman. He is a Republican candidate for Alabama State Senate, District 4 up in the Winston County, Coleman area. Paul, for people who are listening maybe in that area, not sure exactly if you're there, you would